Hi, welcome to Econ 110, Principles of Macroeconomics, Measuring the Cost of Living. I'm Sue, your instructor. Please use this recording in addition to the textbook and other materials to prepare yourself for class discussions and activities. Part B of this chapter describes other terms related to CPI. The Consumer Price Index is a measure of the overall cost of goods and services bought by a typical consumer. Each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, computes and reports the CPI. CPI is used to turn dollars into meaningful measures of purchasing power, compare dollar figures from different points in time, monitor changes in the cost of living over time. When CPI rises, the typical family has to spend more money to maintain the same standard of living. Inflation rate is the percentage change in the price level, or CPI, from the previous period. Inflation is closely watched as an indicator of macroeconomic performance and is a key variable guiding macroeconomic policy. In the last chapter, we learned to use the GDP deflator to measure inflation as related to current production, including expenditures by firms and governments. Because CPI measures current consumer purchases, it better reflects the impact of inflation on you and I. It is therefore the more common gauge of inflation. BLS divides the CPI basket into the general categories of goods and services shown here: food and beverage, housing, apparel, transportation, medical care, recreation, education and communication, other goods and services, and payments to governments, including water, sewer, sales, and excise tax. This slide also shows how excluded items such as income and Social Security tax and personal investments such as stocks, bonds, and 401ks, etc. The current breakdown of goods and services in the CIP basket is shown here, with housing, transportation, and food representing almost 3/4 of total CPI. CPI is calculated using data on thousands of goods and services. We can see how this is done in a simple 5-step model. 1. Fix the basket, or determine which products are most important to the typical consumer, then weight them according to importance. To do this, BLS surveys consumers to determine quantities purchased. 2. Find prices for all of the goods and services. 3. Compute the value of the basket. To do this, BLS takes the price per unit times the number of units in the basket. Note the amount of each good remains the same from period to period. 4. Choose a base year and compute the CPI. CPI equals current year price divided by base year price of the basket, then multiplied by 100. 5. Compute the inflation rate, or percentage change in CPI from one period to the next. In other words, inflation rate equals change in CPI, or CPI year 2 minus CPI year 1, divided by CPI year 1. We then multiply the result by 100. Let's say we've decided on a list of items for an example basket. For this example, we'll deal only with food for a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 school-aged children. To find the CPI, normally we would list all of the shopping needs, including amounts of each item, find prices for each item, and compute the value of the basket. According to the USDA, the average monthly food bill for a family of 4 today is between $550 and $1,070 per month. Let's pick a median number, for example, $833 per month, or around $10,000 for the entire year of 2012. In 2011, this was $9,830, and in 2010, it was $9,480. That gives us the result for step 3. The total price of the basket for 3 years. In step 4, we select a base year, which for us is 1980, when the basket price was $4,350. Then we compute the CPI index. CPI equals current year price of basket divided by base year price multiplied by 100. Here we can see the CPI for 2010 was 218, for 2011 226, and for 2012, 230. The index is always 100 in the base year, which in this example is 1980. Then we compute the inflation rate, or percent of change, as amount of change, or CPI year 2 minus CPI year 1, divided by the original CPI year 1, then multiplied by 100. Here you can see the inflation rate was 3.7% in 2011 and 1.7% in 2012. In this table, we can see in the far right-hand column the actual percent increase from 1984 to 2012. In 1990, the percent increase from the previous year was 5.4%, and in 2009 it was minus 4.4%, compared to 2012 at 2.1%. There are some challenges with the CPI, such as substitution bias. Remember that when the price of a good increases, some consumers will choose to purchase a substitute instead. So if the orange crop freezes, the price of orange juice goes up, and consumers buy substitutes such as grape juice. The CPI basket, however, still includes the original orange juice quantity, but at a much higher price. Introduction of new goods. BLS added cell phones to the basket in 1998, 15 years after they were introduced and when almost 70 million Americans already had them. We also have a challenge with unmeasured quality change. If the value of a good changes while its price remains the same, the value of the dollar changes. This kind of change is difficult to measure. Let's go back to the cell phone example. In 1998, features of cell phones and extent of service was limited. For example, our first car phone in 1998 came in a bag the size of a small briefcase, with an antenna that had to be mounted on the roof of the car, and we had no service from our home. How do you measure the difference in value between that phone and your new iPhone? Check the text to ensure you understand these important terms and concepts. The learning objectives here will help you prioritize your study. That's it for this recording. Be sure to watch Part B for other related terms. Thanks for watching.